Welcome to the Sales Lead Dog Podcast, hosted by CRM technology and sales process expert Christopher Smith, talking with sales leaders that have separated themselves from the rest of the pack. Listen to find out how the best of the best achieve success with their team and CRM technology. And remember, unless you are the lead dog, the view never changes.
Welcome to Sales Lead Dog. On today's episode, I have joining me Kevin Kostiner, Chief Commercial Officer of ClimaFi. Kevin, welcome to Sales Lead Dog.
Hey, Chris. Pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Tell me a bit about ClimaFi.
Sure. So ClimaFi is a startup, and we deliver unparalleled, financially optimized, resilient, and reliable energy solutions. And it's around microgrid technologies, which I'm sure we'll get into a little bit. Delivering strategic energy management and what's called arbitrage, to help companies with their sustainable practices for them to have a very solid energy infrastructure future, which is becoming very critical in today's current electricity grid world.
Oh yeah, with all the changes in terms of how utilities are charging for electricity, there's people, if you run a business, that's an area you just don't want to be surprised in, right? You've got so much other stuff to worry about. Do you really need another?
Yeah, that's part of it. And then the critical nature is what's been going on with just the resiliency and the grid instability.
I didn't think about that. Yeah, that's huge, especially like this time of year. You start having brownouts, the rolling blackouts, those kinds of things.
Yeah, I mean, and then you have, climate issues related to storms. We just had another hurricane out of the blue turn into something I didn't expect. And Houston's without power for how many days now? So you have, you can't run businesses. You can't operate and function if you don't have confidence in the electricity that's going to run your business. And that's where ClimaFi comes in to bring that reliability, bring that confidence, and to do it also in a unique financial way.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it's just that problem's only going to escalate. It's only going to get worse as things keep going, right?
That's much worse. People have no idea how bad it's going to get because the utilities can't fix it on their own. They just can't. They don't have the money. They don't have the time. You have to do it yourself. You have to become proactive and take steps to what we call armor your infrastructure yourself. Because if you don't, you're going to be those with the lights off when those that have taken the proactive steps will be the ones with lights on.
Yeah, that's crazy. Kevin, when you look back over your career, how would you summarize the three things that have really driven you and led to your success?
Well, one thing is just the ability to focus. I find that if you can focus, if you can put on your AirPods and just dive into whatever it is you're doing and not be distracted, that's number one. Is you just got to be able to do that, whatever your way of doing it is. You got to find that way. If you get distracted easily, if you can't stay on one task for very long, you're going to have issues. So it's critically important to be able to focus. Number two is to have hopefully a sense of what interests you. It kind of sucks if you keep doing things you absolutely hate day in and day out. It's a miserable way to live a life. So find what gives you a level of, it doesn't have to be that, it gives you this euphoric form of passion. I think that's kind of just ridiculous. I mean, that's like the Fantasyland TED Talk, right? You don't have to, it doesn't have to be the best in the world. Just has something, I really like that. And I want to pursue that. And then number three is the ability to see it through. Too many people, if it's not going right immediately, or they're not closing sales fast enough, or they don't feel the company's responsive enough right now, they tend to check out and want to go somewhere else, and they start bouncing around. They used to be, not too many years ago, where on a resume, if you were interviewing somebody and their resume showed constant job hopping, that was a huge negative. Yeah. Now with the tech industry, it's almost like if you've been there too long, there's something wrong with you. But I think there's a balance somewhere. And if you bounce around too much, it is not a positive thing. You can't gain the benefits of doing whatever you're doing for whoever you're doing it with if you aren't there long enough to kind of get that stuff. So, that's the third most important aspect as far as I see it.
Yeah. It's funny how that's changed. I think it's so unusual these days to come across. I mean, it's happened a few times, and I've had some people on the podcast where I've invited them because they've been at one company their whole career, and that's so unusual. Like, I want to hear that story, because it's by far the exception these days. And 20 years ago, that was not the case.
Not at all. I've got a lot of people I'm connected with, people follow me on LinkedIn, and I sometimes, will see someone's profile and I'm like, wait, they've been there for 27. What?
Yeah.
Somebody I actually have just seen, I work out at Lifetime here in Henderson, Nevada, and I've seen him around the gym there, and I saw him in an airplane sitting next to me, and we started chatting. I said, well, what do you do? And he said he'd been with this one company for 27 years. And I was like going, let's looked at him and went, I probably even said what? Because I was so surprised by that, right? In the current environment that, and it was just, he probably started there, he was 20 some years old, and there he built a career there, and it gave him the ability to branch out and do other things as well to achieve other goals he had. So it was definitely kind of eye-opening.
No, that's crazy. When you look back in, the time when you're getting started in sales, is there a particular event or experience that has carried you through the rest of your career?
It's funny. I want to sit here and give you and people that watch your podcast and listen to your podcast, like this incredible kernel of knowledge. But, when I look back on it, I just stumbled into it. I mean, I love people that say I have this life plan and I curated my goals and objectives perfectly, as every book I've read and every one of those talks I went to said I should do. And I followed that plan to the letter, and I'm not one of them. I didn't. In fact, I think it's the idea of setting down excessive goals and objectives all the time are a bit overblown and a bit ridiculous. I think you need to be nimble and just kind of sometimes, see how the universe aligns things for you and pay attention to that. So I think it's more about maybe paying attention to certain directions that just I ended up in without any conscious effort on my part. But that doesn't mean there wasn't unconscious things going on. And, I just kind of went with it. And those things, hindsight, right? I look back on some of that direction, and it was painful, and there's some serious negatives in some of it as I look back, but then I see the connections it made for me. And then I have to say to myself, well, it's either I did it myself or there was a guiding hand, whatever you want to say, that kind of put me down a path. And that path is not always going to be, nice paved path. It could be a rutted dirt road in the middle of nowhere, and you're going, why the heck am I on this road in the middle of the night? And you don't know. And then, you get to the end of that, and all of a sudden the answer is there, and you go, oh. So to me, that was more for my journey than, again, just somehow I was brilliant, a bunch of years ago and wrote it all down and followed it to the letter. I didn't.
Yeah, I've had a similar experience here. I think anyone who says what you described, like the stuff you read in the books, you see in TED Talks, and I'm like, I don't know anybody who lives their life like that. It's like, come on, like that's not normal, at least my experience. And I'm a big believer in serendipity, that it's like you have to be open to the opportunities that are in front of you, and you have to be willing to take some rest, make a leap of faith. That's why they call it a leap, right? And, and just embrace the experience and take from it what you can. And that's kind of the thread through my life anyway.
I think you bring up something too. As you were saying that, there's really a fourth component to answer your first question. And I actually think I probably should have said this one first. And that's confidence that you're taking the right step. And if it doesn't work out, you'll figure something out. And confidence, I think, is something that is highly overlooked and in short supply. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say, I've always been the most confident person in the world. I've doubted a huge bunch of times. Most people hide it, right? When you're talking to people, especially in a business setting, you're at a social event, networking event, after trade show, whatever it is, everyone seems so like polished and on point, but they're not. That, and to be rather specific, why are they all drinking so heavily? Because the booze is free. If they're all so comfortable, they're not. They're creating artificial confidence And I'm not a drinker. I just choose not to drink. So I notice this stuff. And,
Yeah.
I've discovered something. When your confidence is also knowing it's okay to not be confident and to not feel comfortable. And that's part of the journey as well, because if you're always trying to fake it till you make it, I like the idea that we can act and play roles. And I think it's exciting to do that. But if you're always faking to make it, you're going to be constantly faking it instead of just being who you are. And that, and just admitting it is confidence. And that is a driving force to just, experience things and realize it's okay to just take a different path. Mom and dad didn't want you to do that. Your friends didn't want you. Your family didn't want you to do it. Your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your husband, whatever, didn't want you to do it. But you know what? If it's something you have passion and you just feel it's a direction I need to go do it. Now, granted, if you have 3 kids and, there's a heavy financial risk here, you do have to have a little bit of a deeper dive on it. But I think back when you're starting in whatever path you're going on, if it's just you, you moved out of the house, you're living in an apartment with some buddies, or maybe you bought your first home, it's just you renting a couple rooms out to friends, whatever the model is, and someone offers you a job to go, be a international sales rep, and you get to travel around the world on the company's expense, meeting and selling and talking to people around the world, and you like traveling, take the darn job. Even if you're going to miss being at home and all that other stuff, there's just opportunities that are there for you. You got to seize them and not overthink. Overthinking is the worst thing we can do because the universe is setting things up. You got to be there to just respond to them. And, if someone dangles a carrot in front of you, the carrot isn't always attached to a stick. It's attached to a lot of beautiful things. So just take the carrot, take a bite and give it a shot, because you can always change your mind. You're not forced to stay on that path if you're not happy.
Oh yeah. That you reminded me 2 things. One was my daughter, when she graduated college, and life is staring her right in the face, right? It's like 2 months away from graduation, and she kind of has this crap. Real life is coming at me, and I have no plan. I have no idea what's going to happen. And her thing is like, Dad, what if I do this? Her thing was, should I go to grad school or not? It's like, what if I go to grad school and I don't like it? Do something else, right? And like message, like, there's nothing carved in stone in your life. There is no plan that's just guaranteed to work. You've got to move forward, figure out if it's working or not, and then adjust. That's life. And, and then the other part was, I've been an entrepreneur most of my career. I started my first company when I was 23, grew it, worked my tail off, and just thought I was like, I had this vision of what it was to be an entrepreneur. And then I started getting involved in entrepreneur networks here in Colorado. And you go to these functions and you're meeting people. And when you're early in, you always want to have this air of super confidence and everything in your life is great. And you're just crushing it. So people are like, Chris, how's it going? Early on, I'm like, oh, it's great. Things are going really well, even though it could have been a total shit show. You don't want to expose that, right? Because you're thinking like, oh, these people think I'm a loser or whatever. But I've learned over the years that the people that I really respect, when you say, how's your business going? How are things going? The ones that are saying, oh, I am struggling right now. We're growing really fast, but we're strapped for cash. We're struggling to figure out our cash options and cash issues or whatever, or my staffing having major HR problems I'm trying to figure out. Those are the people I want to talk to now, because they're being vulnerable, they're being open, they're being real, and it gave me a different kind of confidence, to say, hey, if I'm really going to get what I need out of this experience, I need to be just as open and honest. That's when I'm really going to get some value out of this.
It's hard to do that for most people, to be vulnerable. Being vulnerable can kind of suck because you just don't know, especially in your, growing up or something, and you show vulnerability and people like dumped on you or whatever because of it. And you kind of grow up with this like fear of showing it. So I think it's hard and justifiably so to be vulnerable, especially in a business setting where you're bringing maybe the personal aspects of what you experience from a personal side into a business setting. But I found, clearly I'm sure that people are listening or watching, they probably have 10 times more horror stories, I would think. But the reality is, I think most people in the business setting are not looking to take advantage of your vulnerability. They're looking to listen and provide appropriate guidance if you're asking for it. Other times it's just basically shut up and listen to what this person's saying, because they're just trying to kind of just let go of some things to make their life a little bit easier. And you might be the ear that's there at that moment. I kind of think that that's the important thing. If we can close the lips and just keep our ears open, sometimes that's all that is really needed. And then they might say, hey, what would you do? I mean, I really would appreciate your thoughts on it, because I know you've done whatever you work for and experience those things, and you can provide some guidance and support, because it's incredibly important to not, what is it called, wallow in your misery by yourself.
Oh, totally.
It sucks.
It sucks. It totally sucks. You feel so alone, so isolated. And then if you find out if you're willing to take that leap and make yourself vulnerable, oftentimes those people are like, oh, I was in the exact same place 2 years ago, and here's what I did. And it's like, a lot of times it helps just to know, hey, I'm not the only one.
Yeah, but you're not. You made me think, as you were talking about that, and you talked about your daughter. I think as parents, I have 2 sons and a daughter, older son, middle daughter, younger son. And as parents, my dad, it's hard, depending on generations, right?
Yeah.
Is how much they kind of push and say, you have to do this, and this has to be your life. And I know growing up, it was like, no one ever went to college. You got to go to college. You have to, and you have to do this, and that. And it's interesting with my kids, my oldest son, he was in his first year of college here in the Las Vegas area. And his first year of college, admittedly, he will say he completely, shall we say, messed it up pretty bad. And he was miserable. He didn't like where he was going to school. He did not like the school, the program, or anything. So he came, but the school was basically free. Living in state is really financially amazing. And he came to me and said, he don't want to do that. He don't want to do that anymore. Second year, he wants to do online through Western Governors University, but which was going to cost us money. And I looked at him and thought, I could have said, no, you're going back to the school. It's free, tough. But I said, okay, what do you want to do? And he said they have a cybersecurity program, and he wants to do online, and he wants to get it done, whatever, quick, because you can do that online, right? Yep. And I said, okay, I'll pay for it. And he went off and started it. And the summer was approaching. This is 2015. Summer was approaching, and he, on his own, decided to apply for some internships in cybersecurity. Long story short, he was selected for one with the Department of Homeland Security in DC, unpaid, got to go there, pay. I have to pay for him to stay someplace for the summer. So it's one of those like, oh, you got to be kidding me, right? So I said, fine. We went. We set him up at George Washington University in one of the dorms there. I paid for it. But in this process, since he was 16, he had a LinkedIn profile. And your audience member, everyone listening, if you're early in your career, you do not have a LinkedIn profile, you need to stop what you're doing right now, put everything down, go create one, use chat or whatever you need to do to create a really good one for who you are and what you're doing, and get it up there right now, because you have to have it. Forget about Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. I don't care about other social media. If you're going in business, starting a business, you're on LinkedIn. He did that when he was 16. So when he got the internship, he updated that on LinkedIn. Yep. Almost immediately, he started being recruited by a cybersecurity company. Now, my son had no experience in cybersecurity, zero. Right. Yep. And he got selected for the internship because another important aspect that people need to be is he was good on the phone. He could talk to people. Yeah. So another thing is if people you cannot communicate like we're doing right now, whether over a Zoom or a Google Meets call or face-to-face, eye contact, the normal social aspects, you need to learn that because that's what got him that internship. And he ends up getting hired by the cybersecurity company before he was even done with the internship. And he never came home from DC. He went to Florida for 5 weeks of training, and that launched his cybersecurity career. And now he's 9 years into that career, doing phenomenally well. Yeah. And his younger brother's following in his footsteps, and he's taking his path into cybersecurity. So it's really important to sometimes, if you're a guiding light in someone's life, is to get out of your way, to not be in their way. And that cannot be easy, but people will come to you, whether it's children or friends or people that work for you, and ask you, to help them do something or what your opinion is. And we got to put aside our own the stuff we're programmed with, whether through just the way we were brought up or work beliefs or whatever, and say, and think, okay, a different direction for them is right. Whether I agree with it or not, I need to help that person figure that out. Because if I had told my son, no, I don't know where his life would have ended up. I have absolutely no idea, but I don't think it would have been where he is today. And, the beautiful things that path that took him has created for himself and now his fiance and our family. So it's awe-inspiring, really.
That's a beautiful story. I love that story. It's like goosebumps listening to that, because that's like a pivotal life moment for him, where you definitely could have gone two totally different paths. And thank God you picked the one which allowed him to be where he's at now. I'm getting the sense that is probably a common theme in terms of how you are as a leader within your organizations that you've been involved with. Is that an accurate assessment?
Yeah, I totally believe in first off, I absolutely detest micromanagement. I've been involved in someone recently with micromanaging and things of that nature, and my personality literally rebels against it. I can't stand it. I think it's the worst form of management. If anybody has managers that manage that way, they need to fire them. I'm very blunt about that, because they're ruining your organization. They're scaring away good people, and they're impacting your sales in a horrible way. So yeah, I believe in supporting people, again, trying to work with them to figure out their motivations, their passions, their challenges, and where they want to go. I mean, it's kind of a trite thing. Well, managers should know what the goals of all their people are. It's not goals. It's more about their passions. Goals are such a cold, sterile term. We need to get away from using that. Oh, set your goals down. I want to be rich by the time I'm X. Oh, cool. Well, how are you going to do that, right? Yeah. It's passion, right? Passion gets you to where you want to go, not goals.
No.
So you need to learn the goals of the people that work with you and for you, and see, in your role, the role you play, how you can help them achieve those passions. And some of it might be work directly related to work. I want to move from this group to that group and learn these things. Awesome. But it also might be something that's not business related. They want to be able to, they want to be able to have a better work-life balance. They want to spend more time with their children. They don't want to travel so much. They want to travel more, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. And we need to work with those things. I think back about, this is 3 years ago, when all of a sudden people were sent home to work. And I remember talking to people on the phone. I was still doing the outreach and stuff. And I get people on the phone and they go, yeah, I just started working from home. We don't know why he's working from home. And I just don't know what to do. And I said, well, if I can give you some advice, this is going to be real simple. My advice: enjoy the hell out of it. Don't dress up to sit at your computer at home. Wear whatever you damn well want. And you know what? The people on the other end of that camera aren't going to give two hoots if you're in a suit and tie or a t-shirt that says Grateful Dead on it. It doesn't make a difference, because they're doing the same thing and they're worried about the same stuff. Be you. The best thing about that whole thing was people got to go home and all of a sudden experience being themselves in a work environment, instead of always going to the office with the business casual on, or the sport coats, or this nonsense, and pretending to be something they weren't. And being something you're not in a business setting is not a recipe for success or happiness. Mm-hmm. So it was just the greatest thing to be able to kind of give people some simple advice, since I've been working virtual from my home for a very long time. Yep. And, I learned just through my own efforts. Initially, I was that person. Oh my gosh, their kids are in the background, the dog's barking. Oh, it's not going to go well. I literally felt that way. I remember it. I remember my son, when he's little, coming in my office, I'm on a phone call and I'm getting upset with him. Yeah. In hindsight, I feel bad about that. Yeah. I should have said, come here, I want to introduce you to somebody.
Oh yeah.
This is, whoever I'm on the phone with, but I didn't, because I was so worried back then. Yeah. And, now it's literally like I was on the call this morning, my internal call, and folks I work with are coming to Vegas next week so we can meet and spend some time together. Yeah. And my CEO said, just seeing, it's been very hot here, yeah. Incredibly, ridiculously hot. The weather broke, but this week it's only going to be a high of 108, only 108. And he said, I'm just wearing shorts. I just want to let you know. And I said, cool. Because guess what? I don't care if you literally show up in flip-flops and a t-shirt. It doesn't make a difference. We are not here to impress each other with our clothes. We're here to help this company grow. And what we wear has zero impact on that.
That's right.
And anyone that thinks that what you wear has an impact on how you grow your company is slightly demented.
Yes.
And they need to reassess their viewpoint and what's important in helping achieve success for themselves and their business and their company.
Yeah. I can't tell you how many times the culture. So we've been virtual. My firm Impeller has been virtual since 2007. I started the company seeing that, hey, this is a strategic advantage for me. I can recruit the best people wherever they are and say, hey, you don't have to worry about traffic anymore. You can work from home. You can wear whatever you want. I don't care. Be happy. Make your life simple. And it was a huge advantage for me for years. Well, then COVID came and now everybody's virtual. But I love it now because I've met my employees, their children. I know who their dogs are, the names of their dogs, all of that, because it's so much more casual, and you get to know people better when you see where they live, and you get a sense of really who they are and what they like about, oh, you love the Grateful Dead. That's awesome. I saw the best concert. You could start relating on a totally different level that you would never be able to in the sterile environment of an office where everybody's dressed the same.
Yeah, it's so true. I mean, expressing your personality is a great bonding for people in business. There's a great adage, right? You're doing business with people. You're not doing business, right? So if I like you and you like me, then we're going to try to find a way to do business together. Maybe it won't be today, but we're going to do it at some point.
That's right.
But if I'm always plastic and artificial, you're going to pick up on that. There's going to be something about that person that you just can't put it's right. I can't put my finger on why if I don't feel comfortable or I don't like that person. It's because they're not being genuine. And it's like when you are giving a talk or a speech. Like, I sometimes watch the TED Talks on LinkedIn, and some of the subjects they talk about, are pretty cool. That's a pretty neat subject. And I know they have teleprompters and I know they rehearse it, but the best ones are the ones where they are genuine. They're just having a conversation with the audience. And the greatest speakers are that way. And sometimes they don't even memorize. They have the notes and they'll just talk from their notes. And I found I would shoot videos for a YouTube channel I started a bunch of years ago, so a few years back. And I felt I had to script everything. So what I'd do is I'd write these scripts to each segment and I'd film them and I'd memorize. And I remember I would do like 20, 30 takes at a time because I didn't want to make any, I wanted the whole thing to be perfect. Then I'd go back and I posted these, and they were pretty lengthy, and the topic was interesting. And now I'm looking at myself, so I'm being very critical. I would watch these, and I still sometimes watch them today, and I cringe because I see how tense I am. I'm not flowing. And I realized that once I threw out the script ideas and just went with my idea, so everything I post on LinkedIn now, all the videos are just extemporaneous. I don't have any. I just have an idea in my head. I'm motivated by this idea and I go out and shoot a video, and I now flow. I feel relaxed. I feel comfortable. I like the content. So a lot of it is, again, being genuine, and we're not perfect. We say, we say, and there'll be people say, oh, you can't do that. Yes, you can. It's being human. If I'm on a business call, if I'm talking to the CEO, the CCO, the CIO, CRO of a major company, and we're having a meeting about ClimaFi's solutions, we're having a conversation. And I'm not going to sit here and worry if I say or ah a few times, because I know they're going to do the same thing and they're going to appreciate that. I'm not going to rehearse. I'm not going to sit down for 3 days before and rehearse the meeting. I'm going to make sure I have my tools. If I want to use a PowerPoint, it's going to be there. But the bottom line is you want to be relatable. Be yourself. Don't be afraid of being yourself. Now, granted, you're working virtual. Some people like blurred backgrounds, like you have a white background. I've set that up so it's nice looking what's behind me. You don't want your bedroom with your bed unmade, your background. Certain nuances you should pay attention to. But beyond that, just be yourself and enjoy the process.
And, it's really funny you mentioned my background. So I'm sitting in my office. And the sad thing about my background, it's boring. It doesn't tell you anything about me versus your background. I've been intrigued about the picture hanging on the wall behind you since you first came on camera. Now, you have no idea that right to my left on the wall here is an autographed Dr. J, Philadelphia 76ers jersey Now, if you saw that in the camera shot, you're like, oh, Chris loves basketball. He loves Dr. J. We'd have something to talk about, right? And, I could ask him, like, tell me, what's the story behind that painting on the wall? Why is that important to you? You lose that. Like I'm the exact opposite of what it probably should be. You're the case for what it should be.
I chose, it's interesting, when I moved into the house I'm in about 5 years ago, and I knew this would be my office because a lot of natural light. I mean, off the stage, what is it called? Stage, right? You're right, my left. There's a huge French door and a deck looking out on a green belt. I have another window over here. So there's a lot of just beautiful natural light, and I'm a light person. So, but I knew I wanted behind me to be something engaging visually, and I knew on the wall I like art, and I wanted a nice piece of art that could start a conversation, and it's also visually appealing, colorful, and nice. And I think about, like, when you're talking about Dr. J. I don't watch ESPN, but it's just on sometimes at the gym and stuff. And the one thing I've always I visually gravitate towards is when they're doing their whatever the shows are, and they're interviewing somebody, from their virtual spot, and they have many of them have bookcases behind them with all these cool things on the shelves, footballs and this. And I always engage in what's behind them. I'm looking at those shelves going, this is cool, because this is like, I don't know, some great basketball player, and behind him like a basketball or an autograph this and books, and it's just so visually engaging. It represents, like you said, a little bit about you. It starts conversations. And even if we may not have we've got 30 minutes booked and we really don't have a lot of time to talk about, business stuff. Right. At the same time, we're visually learning something about that person. That's right. Again, the humanness of this person, that this person has interest outside of, my selling you microgrid technologies, or you selling me on, joining a podcast. It's just who we are. And people need to not be afraid to do that. I mean, curate what's behind you. It just seems like everyone blurs their backgrounds. And I'm just like, and I'm looking at the blurred, and I'm looking beyond the blurred, and I'm going, and I'll even ask them, what is behind you? It looks engaging. And especially some people live in, a high-rise apartment or something, and they have a beautiful skyline. Other people just have just kind of engaging decor right behind them. Maybe their offices in their living room. And I just think it's okay. You should show that, unless you're ashamed of it. You're not proud of something, right? It's so important. Again, it's the humanness. It's connecting with people. Sales is, if you can connect with people quickly, it relaxes the whole tenure of the call. And just kind of gets it flowing better. And, it's just, you may end up literally going to, you and I may go to a basketball game together because I saw Dr. J.
No, exactly. Totally. It's like, you never know, because I use that all the time. I'm constantly looking to see what's behind people, because then I'm like, all right, I want to make sure I ask that question about that and get them telling a story. I want to hear a story that maybe I can pivot off of, and we can build a relationship. Shifting gears a little bit here, CRM, do you love it or do you hate it?
CRM, love it or hate it. I don't hate it. It's really dependent upon the CRM. I do believe strongly that we need a means to effectively record, track, monitor the data of the efforts we put forth. It's critically important. And I remember back the company I was with before for 5 years in the EV charging space, it was really, we didn't have a really good solid means to do that. And there's a lot of like spreadsheet stuff going on. It works for a while, but it becomes hugely inefficient, very manual. And I am one that hates manual processes if they can be automated. It's a huge waste of time. Time is valuable. And if I'm wasting it doing a bunch of red tape nonsense because we haven't implemented the right tools, then we're making a huge mistake. So CRMs are important. You just have to pick the right one for your business. It doesn't mean you have to go for the one everyone else uses. You don't have, oh, John, what are you using? Oh, I'll just go with that one. No, you have to look into it. You got to understand your business and look at the pros and cons. Certainly cost is a big issue. If you're an early stage startup with minimal funding, you don't want to be paying huge amounts of money to a CRM provider. So you look at some of the newer players. There's a lot of newer players in the market, a lot of startups in the market. There's just smaller players that have some really good products. So know your product, pick it carefully, and then use the tools it gives you. Again, where I was before, they kept having these manual processes, which drove me nuts.
Yeah.
And I argued against it. So this is stupid. Let's automate. And they wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
It comes down to, if you have tools, use all of them that apply to you and get rid of as many manual processes as you can, because it will save you time. And it's a trite saying, but time is money, not just the stuff that goes in your bank account, but it's your money of time to produce and to work and thrive and move forward and develop and create. So it's necessary. Just know the right one for your business and then implement it and use it.
Could not have said it better myself. I get asked that all the time. And I've seen so many people like, oh, we use this because we used it at my last company. It's what I'm comfortable with, but it's like crazy expensive for what, that size company. It doesn't fit right. You said it perfectly. I'm not going to parrot it back. Just if you didn't catch it, rewind, listen to what Kevin said. He nailed it. It is exactly the right approach. There's no one size fits all. There are over 2,000 CRMs in the market, which is a really overwhelming number. But just spend the time to find one that's right sized for you. And also not just for now, but where do you expect to be 3 years from now, 5 years from now? Make sure you have that in consideration as well. Kevin, we went a bit long earlier, which is okay. So we're up at our time here on Sales Lead Dog. This has been a great conversation. I really enjoyed talking with you. If people want to reach out, connect with you, learn more about you or ClimaFi, what's the best way for them to do that?
They can email me at kevin@climafi.com. That's CLIMAFI.com. Or on my phone number, 702-533-5886. Of course, they can also text me as well.
Yeah, and if you didn't catch that, no worries. Check it out in the show notes. You'll get those at impellercrm.com/sales lead dog, where you'll get not only this episode, but all of our 100+ episodes of Sales Lead Dog. So be sure to check that out, subscribe so you get all our future episodes. Kevin, thank you so much for coming on. It's been a great conversation, and welcome to the Sales Lead Dog Pack.
Thank you, Chris. Loved it. Appreciate it. And, hope your audience enjoys it as much as I had in having this conversation with you.
Yeah, it was great.
As we end this discussion on Sales Lead Dog, be sure to subscribe to catch all our episodes. On social media, follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. Watch the videos on YouTube, and you can also find our episodes on our website at impellercrm.com/Sales Lead Dog. Sales Lead Dog is supported by Impeller CRM, delivering objectively better CRM for business, guaranteed.